these habits were learned and they can be unlearned as well, which means you can develop good habits and break the bad ones. That is an important science to understand and practice. Habits are customary behaviors, ways of thinking that have become so natural to us, they seem to happen almost automatically without effort. Now, we all have many habits. Somebody is habituated to drinking a Coke with the meal and the food just doesn't go down without it. Another person's habit is coming and looking at Netflix after getting exhausted from office. A third person absolutely must play golf after work or they'll feel uncomfortable. A fourth person must have the daily dose of meditation. All of these have become a part of us. They define our personality. Interestingly, we do them so naturally we don't even realize our own habitual behaviors. That is why the famous mystery writer Agatha Christie said, "Curious things, habits. People didn't even know they had them." One mathematician, Daniel Hilbert, he and his wife had thrown a party at their home, and all the guests were there. The wife realized that her husband's shirt was badly crumpled, so she told him, "Go up and change your shirt and come." He went up and did not come back for half an hour. That made the wife wonder, what has happened to my husband? She went up and found him fast asleep on his bed. What had happened was, when he took off his shirt, as a matter of habit, because he had been doing that for the last 35 years, he lay down in bed and went to sleep. That is the nature of these habits. Now, if we have good habits, they can work to our advantage. Habits of hygiene, habits of good health, habits of maintaining positivity or even the attitude of gratitude, etc. And if we have bad habits, they can hurt us terribly. Some people have the habit of procrastination. Others have the habit of estimating themselves negatively always. Some people are inveterate worriers. One gentleman came and asked me, "Swamiji, why do I worry so much?" I said, "Because you practiced worrying so much. It now comes naturally to yourself." So these habits, they are learned behavior. We did not enter the world with them. They could be addictions. Somebody is habituated to smoking. So did any child coming out from the mother's womb say, "Mummy, give me the whiskey, otherwise I cannot live"? These habits were learned and they can be unlearned as well, which means you can develop good habits and break the bad ones. That is an important science to understand and practice. What do we need to understand in this regard? The first scientist to throw light on this habitual nature of our personality was a Russian called Ivan Pavlov in the year 1904. His research got famous as the classical theory of conditioning. He was actually studying the digestive system of dogs. A dog would be brought and dog food would be brought in front, and they would then measure how much the dog salivated. until Pavlov discovered that even without bringing the food, because to ask the attendant to come, they would ring a bell. And the mere ringing of the bell would cause the dog to salivate. Its brain had gotten conditioned. So we human beings also become conditioned by many things without realizing. The books we read, the movies we see, the company we keep. And then our behavior gets impacted by that conditioning. There's a story told about Swami Vivekananda. He used to live in Kolkata and go and meet his guru in Dakshineshwar. One night while returning, he was caught in a terrible storm. And some fisherwomen had sold their goods in Kolkata and were returning to Dakshineshwar the other way. They were also caught in the same spot. Now, the only building nearby was a florist's shop. Both of them entered to take shelter from the rain. The florist was a kind man and he said, "All right, you can all sleep here." And he invited the ladies inside where the flowers were placed. They put their baskets in the veranda and came in. And the florist requested Swamiji to sleep in the veranda. Now, unfortunately, that's where these fisher ladies had placed their fish baskets. And Swami Vivekananda was getting so choked by the smell of it. He felt that he would die out here. On the other hand, the fisherwomen ladies inside, in the midst of the flowers, they were finding this aroma to be suffocating. Finally, at 2 a.m. in the morning, they emerged and they invited Swamiji to go inside. He went in, heaved a sigh of relief, and exclaimed, to what an extent we become conditioned by our environment. This nature of our brain provides the potential for creating habits. So how does a habit get made? Understand the habit loop. Let us say, for example, you came back from office after strenuous work and wanted some relief, some kind of entertainment. So you sat on the sofa in your living room and switched on the TV. Now, while the brain is getting entertained, you thought it will be a nice idea to have a hot coffee as well. So you fixed yourself a cup of coffee. And when you had the coffee, it gave you the reward, which is the pleasure. When you repeated this behavior day after day after day, without your realizing, the habit started kicking in. In the habit, there are 3 aspects. The first is the trigger, the impetus, which provokes the action. And the second is the conditioned response. And the third is the reward, which reinforces the habit and closes the loop. In this case, sitting in your living room in front of the TV is the trigger for the brain. And then the brain creates the conditioned response, which is the urge for coffee. And when you get the coffee, the consequence is the pleasure that reinforces the behavior for you. So what happens in this loop is, any action you undertake, physical or mental, it fires millions of neurons in your head. This brain is an astonishing mechanism with 100 billion neurons, and it's more sophisticated than where ChatGPT has reached so far. So millions of neurons are getting fired while you're listening to Swamiji, while Swamiji is speaking, while you're trying to understand whatever you're driving, your car, etc. But the brain is so self-programming that when it sees this behavior is getting repeated, it creates a little software for it. So shortcuts for the behavior get stored in the axons between the neurons, which enable the neurons to fire together more easily. Hence the saying in English that neurons that fire together will wire together. That circuitry will start getting etched, making those thoughts easier to you, to your advantage or to your disadvantage. So that groove starts getting etched in your head. This learning mechanism was given to us by God because any skill that we acquire requires it. For example, the first time that you started typing, you had to search. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog or whatever it does. Where to put this little tiny finger and where to put the index finger of my right hand, etc., etc. You were literally typing at a couple of words a minute. But then it became easier as the circuitry started getting established. And then even easier and even easier. And in the space of 1 year, you were typing at 60 to 100 words a minute. Now let us say someone who has never seen typing comes for the first time and sees you busily typing. That person will be astonished. Oh my God, how do they move their fingers so fast? I don't even have time to think and they're just moving like this. How is it all happening? Does this person have some yogic mystic power, yogic siddhi? It is no yogic siddhi. It is merely the consequence of 1 year of practice. In fact, you become so good at it that it's happening automatically and you're thinking alongside with it. If this ability did not exist, it would not be possible for you to think and also to type. Or just consider simple behavior when you speak. You are creating all kinds of sounds with this, your vocal cords, the tongue, the mouth, the palate. For this, the tongue has to keep moving here and there. Do you think that to utter this word, I now need to take my tongue up? The brain has got it all. You keep thinking of what you need to say and the work is getting done automatically. This is the self-programming nature of our brain. And that self-programming nature provides for the creation of habits.